Welcome back to FloTrack, everyone. Kevin Sully with another race breakdown, and today we're going to look at the 2021 RunningLane Cross Country Championships, which was the de facto high school national championships this year, and served as another testament for how strong and historically good this Newbury Park boys cross country team is. So I'm just going to let the race run here, jump in with a little bit of statistics and analysis as we go. By now, you've probably heard, you've probably seen the crazy low scores that Newbury Park's been putting up in these championship meets, and also just the mind-boggling depth of this team. And listen, this race already was a little bit of icing on the cake for Newbury Park. I know the championship at the end of the year was the most important part of the season, but they proved so much at that California State meet that the case was closed, essentially, of who's the best boys high school team of all time. This just further cemented that. And the RunningLane meet was really strong this year. NXN was canceled. This served as I mentioned, the de facto high school national championship meet. And if you look at the, pause it here, look at the actual start list of who ended up in this race. These are the top 10 rankings and the mile split rankings going into this meet, and the teams in green are the ones who showed up to run in Alabama. So the entire top 8 was there, and 9 of the top 10. So the good teams were there. The good teams were there, even though the venue was different. This was a true test of the best teams in the nation this year, and Newbury Park came to play. You see them, they're all packed up already here on the right side of your screen. On the individual side of things, a little bit different. Some of the mile split top 5, top 10 were not there. If you look at those rankings, I'll bring those up now. Let's go over to them. So Riley Ho of Michigan coming in was the number 1 runner. He was there. Gavin Sherry was not. Obviously, the Newbury Park guys are there, and they were ranked 3, 4, and 5. Langdon and Hayes were not, but Bergen was. So there were some of the top 10 missing, but there was also a good sampling of some of the best individual runners in the nation, and Newbury Park, I think we can clearly say, passed that test. And on the team side of things, obviously, did a very good job. I'm going to push this forward coming up to the mile mark here. And afterwards, Sean Brosnan said that the head coach of Newbury Park actually wanted about a little quicker, around 4:25, but they end up going out in about 4:30. But there's a lot of blue at the front of that pack already, with the Salmons and the Youngs separating themselves early on. They're going to go through about 4:29 unofficially. This RunningLane course, obviously very fast. The footing, it was a little wet, they said, out there. Made it a bit more challenging, and there is a hill, but fast times aplenty across this course. You saw them run through that mat there, right about 4:29, and there's even no need to look at the splits. If I was doing this for an NCAA race, I'd go and I'd pull up the split screen, like here's the 2K split, here's where the team is moving up. Newbury Park's already dominating. It's clear. You can see the blue up front with Aaron Salmon, Colin Salmon, Lex Young, Leo Young, all in position, running alongside some of the best individual runners in the nation. And this is what's made Newbury Park so good. If we switch over and look at their performance at the California State Championships, which is really what hammered it home, and you look at their marks as compared to some all-time marks there. German Fernandez, still number 1, 14:24 in the Woodward Park course. Salmon, 14:26. He ran that this year. Leo Young, 14:28. Older brother Nico, who's obviously gone on to do great things at NAU, 14:29. And then Lex Young at 14:30. And then their fourth guy, for good measure, tied there for 11th, Aaron Salmon, 14:46. You hear the phrase sometimes in cross country, well, we don't have a number 1 runner. We have 2 number 1 runners. We have 3 number 1 runners. But sometimes what that means is, well, you don't have a clear person who's established themselves, and you actually have 2 number 2 runners or a couple of number 3 runners. In Newbury Park's case, it is very clear that they have 3 and actually 4 number 1 runners. You know, after they run this time and they break the high school cross-country record of 14:10 by Dathan Ritzenheim, a lot of people are comparing this course to the course that Ritz ran and comparing him as a runner. And listen, it's very tough to compare cross-country courses. I think cross-country racing is about just that, racing. But the one thing that you can pull out of it is just this. The fact that you're even having 3 people from one school in the same sentence as Dathan Ritzenhein tells you all you need to know about the strength of the team. But they have mile PBs of 404, 407, 408, 409. So we have some hard numbers there. But when it comes to cross country, again, just the fact that you have that many guys up front on these all-time lists is just astounding. It's astounding. And you watch this race, to me it almost looks like a college race where one team is going up and asserting themselves at the front of the pack and is able to dictate and control the tempo. Now, we see that in college, obviously, because there's fewer teams than there are in high school. There's more power centers where people recruit and get a bunch of people, and they have this awesome run, and they go on a 2 and 3 year stretch where they're dominant. But we still don't see people do what Newbury Park is about to do at a championship race where you have 1, 2, 3. Let's just go over the results real quick. I want to go to the results, and you've seen them by now, but let's flip over to them. Salmon 1403. The Youngs go 2-3, 1405, 1405. Then you go Aaron Salmon, 14-14. Appleford, 42nd place, scores 18 points. Martinez, 55th place, scores 21 points. Doshi, 68th place, scores 28 points. All of them under 15 minutes. And there's a bunch of different ways to look at this dominance, right? You could say the guys up front and how they're doing historical things. And you look at some of the greatest teams of all time. No one on the boys' side has gone 1, 2, 3 in a team national championship. You go back, you look at all the NXN races before when it was called NTN. You even go and look at Foot Locker, which I know was never built around a team championship idea, but there was a team, Kingwood, Texas, in 1993, who had 3 guys qualify to the Foot Locker national championships. They finished 4th, 24th, and 27th. With Salmon, Young, and Young, you're looking at 3 of, now again, not everybody was here individually, but at worst, you're looking at 3 of the best 5 guys in the nation in the same race. I mean, this team up there, if you want to go boys and girls teams, go Fayetteville Manlius 2010. They scored 26 points at the NXN championship, and that's where they went 2-4-6. No one has ever had 3 in the top 5 of a high school national championship. It's just incredible. Another way to look at it, a lot of attention goes to Salmon, a lot of attention goes to Young, and the other Salmon, as it should. But the depth, as I mentioned before, their number 7 guy, let's go back to the results here. Their number 7 guy, Doshi, scores 28 with a 14:59, 68th place overall. 16 teams in this meet didn't have a number 1 man faster than Newbury Park's 7. In fact, if you look at the results, so here it is. Newbury Park, 7th guy, scores 28 points. The 5th place team didn't have someone who scored that low. The 6th place team didn't. The 7th place team didn't. There were only 31 teams total. So over half the teams didn't have it. And this is the high school national championships. Can't reiterate that enough. Best teams in the nation are there. Over half the teams didn't have a number 1 man better than Newbury Park's 7. They go through 2.1. So we had a mile split, and then we had a 2.1 mile split. At 2.1, it was 9:41. So they're actually going to pick it up on this last mile because they're going to finish 14:03, which means they're going to go right around 4:22 for that mile. Again, it's cross country. Don't read too much into the splits. Some miles are hilly, some miles are flat, some miles the footing's great, some miles it's not. But it just gives you an idea of how in control Newbury Park was in this race. And Aaron Salmon up front was doing a lot of the leading. Colin Salmon's going to end up winning. I think he benefits from the fact that other people are doing the work. They're able to get up there and run the exact tempo that they want. And listen, you've all heard the stories. Corey was on site with Olivia for mile split at this meet. They said they were getting selfies with the Newbury Park team the day before. I think there's obviously a bit of intimidation factor when this group rolls into a race, and you'd have to be especially courageous to go out there and try to dictate the pace against Newbury Park based on everything that they've done this year. So we're into the final mile there. The pack is thinning out. You see the Newbury Park 4 there still amongst the nation's best, and just an incredible show of of strength. Bergen from Niwot there. Again, Riley Ho is going to end up running a really great race, and he was undefeated coming in, had that distinction of being number one in the mile split 50, but Newbury Park just too tough over this last mile. And very excited to see what they do in track. Obviously, then we'll get some more concrete times to their names, and then we can engage more in that debate if you want to. Again, I think with cross-country, it's limited, and I don't think cross-country is built around that idea of just chasing fast times all the time. But there is one bit of apples to apples that we can use. I wouldn't even say apples to apples, but it's not apples and oranges, but there's a lot of different types of apples at the grocery store. So pick the two apples that are somewhat similar but not identical. And it's from the girls' race last year with another dominant runner. That's Jenna Hutchins. If you remember, she ran Running Lane last year. Here she is, crushing it. Jenna Hutchins, going to BYU next year. She ran 15:58. A couple weeks later, she got on the track. And I'm bringing this up because people are like, well, what does it equate to on the track? So Hutchins gives us one data point when we want to compare Running Lane, how fast that is, to the track. So basically, how fast could these guys run a track 5,000 right now? And if you do a simple conversion, take her time from Running Lane and then what she ran a few weeks later. This is back in 2020. Again, a lot of caveats in 2020 because the season wasn't normal. But you could get something like this because she went 15:34 a couple weeks later. So using that same calculation, Salmon's at 14:03. Again, the Youngs aren't far behind and his brother's not far behind that. So you can extrapolate pretty close. But it would be about 13:42. So I think 13:40s, I'll give it a range. 13:50 on the high end, maybe high 13:30s on the low end is how fast these guys are capable of if they got into this race right now. Again, got to wait a few, if they're going to wait a few weeks, things are going to be different. The focus, it's high school, so how much focus are they going to put into running a 5,000? I don't know. It might all just go into the 1,600, the 3,200. I'm guessing they're going to want to run some quick miles. The mile PRs, again, this is when they were, for Youngs and Salmons, again, when they were, for Aaron Salmon and the Youngs, this is when they were in 10th grade. They ran 4:07, 4:08, 4:09. Aaron Salmon, 4:04 last year. We know that they're much better this year just because of the quality of performances that they're dropping. So now it's down to four runners at the top: Colin Salmon, Lex Young, Leo Young. Aaron Salmon dropped off a bit, but he's still hanging on. Again, there's only a couple runners between him and the front of this pack, and he is their fourth guy for Newbury Park. But Salmon shows his class here, and also, I think benefits, as I mentioned earlier, benefits from laying off the pace just a little bit in the early stages. He's on his way to NAU next year, the year after. Perhaps Lex and Leo will join their brother there at NAU. But that's to be determined. They don't need to worry about this. They're high school kids. They're having a great time here. You can see a little bit the moisture on the ground and just the fogginess of the day from this shot. Perhaps conditions could have been a little bit quicker if it was a bit drier. But benefits there too as well. Keeps the weather a bit cooler. And now we're in a sprint finish here. This is kind of fun. These guys have been battling back and forth all year. They've run together a ton. If you go back and you look through their results, they're running league meets and they're finishing at the same time. Woodbridge, obviously, Young had a big showing there too. But Aaron Salmon is going to win this one, going to come to the line, and she's just going to usher in a flood of people running historically quick times in this race. And that's the combination of all the best guys coming together, a fast course, and a good day. So there's Salmon 14:03, followed closely behind by Lex and Leo. I'll pull up the results in case you forgot. So we have Colin Salmon 14:03, 4:05s for Leo and Lex. Bergen of Niwot 14:09. So four guys under 14:10, which was the existing mark. Riley Ho, the number one ranked runner coming in, 14:10. Then Salmon 14:14, Aaron Salmon. So a dominant performance for Newbury Park. It was expected, but don't get used to this stuff because it does not come around every single day. So history there at the RunningLane Championships. They go down in history as the best boys team in high school cross country history. That's it for this edition of the Race Breakdown. Make sure you subscribe to the FloTrack YouTube channel for more breakdowns, more races, and more analysis coming up.